All right, guys. Hello. So we are let's start with the calendar because at this point, from this point on after today, it's just midterm projects, which are a draft of your final project, workshopping, conferencing with me, then presenting them. So next week, I'll talk to you guys a little bit about this, well, a lot about this, how our midterm project reviews are going to go. And we will also wrap up some reading. So bring, if you will, text that we haven't spoken about that you'd like to talk about. Maybe you have a blog post that you find particularly worthy of further discussion. Let's just talk about, look back at our books that we have been reading about. But the bulk of that day is going to be spent with the peer review. And I'll talk to you about what you should prepare for that and how that's going to look. And then also, you guys who are watching this as a recording, you'll have an opportunity to get feedback from us as well, and I'll explain how to do that. And then the following, you'll revise based on the feedback that we give during our workshop and prepare it for me to see face to face. So those of you guys who meet, this is a good time. You can meet with me here. I'll be here, and you can share your screen, and we can talk. And then that'll be recorded, so that you'll have that available just as we normally would. So there'll be a lot of dead time, I'm sure. And maybe we can mark the time code for who's is what. But then also, those of you guys who are listening to this recording, we can find a time that we can meet, maybe by phone. In any case, those are not required meetings. Those are strongly encouraged. I mean, why not? But they're not required. And then I've given you guys on the 15th, I'm going to be here, or be here-ish, maybe in my office, probably in my office. It'd probably be better. Except that building's haunted. So it is.
True story.
What?
That's a true story.
Yeah, well,
haunted with that door, no one knows what it does. You didn't even know that? Was that you?
What?
That door in 201?
That door. There's a door that nobody knows where it goes to.
It's locked.
I was here for years before I saw it. It's in room 201. What? Somebody said, "What's in that room?" And I said, "What room?" And then there was a door.
Yep.
The red room.
It's House of Leaves, man. That's the House of Leaves.
Did you not go in there?
You can't open it. It's locked.
I would totally get the custodian.
Well, they've watched horror movies too. They're not going to go in there.
They know what's
And then you'll do presentations the final week. So we'll talk about those as well. So going back to the agenda. All right, I've done a couple of things to, I hope, help with your final project. This is the handout as before. I've tried to do a better job integrating the two options. So you have the one that was the original multimedia option that's just a curated exhibition of digital humanities projects that are related by theme or typer. Oh, that's supposed to go away. And so, we talked about, Shakespeare, or, my students in my women writers class, I had 5 novels that I asked them to do group projects on because they weren't things that we would read together. And one group read Wise Blood, Flannery O'Connor, whom I adore, and they did a great project on it, but they hated it. How can you hate Flannery O'Connor? So anyway, I don't know what kind of digital humanities projects are done on her. But then several of you guys, as you know, because you're decided that you actually kind of want to think about a potential digital humanities project. And today and next time we can also talk, but let's definitely talk today about how far you need to take it. I've got a template that I'll explain to you in a minute that would, that would help us visualize it. You wouldn't build it, but you sort of tell us what it's supposed to do. You'd show us some tools that, do the kind of thing that you think you might want it to do, and some digital humanities projects that exist out there that do something kind of like what you're thinking about doing, but not exactly. So I want it to be held on a website. So I did a little sample website, and we'll look at a couple of these too. This is what I've done is I've done a sample website that hopefully it'll be prettier than this, and I'll show you. It's really easy to use. Like, you can put anything here, text or images, or what I do with our website is I embed a Google Doc. It's really easy to do. And then this has a bunch of other themes you can choose, but there are other websites. How many of you guys have built websites with the platform that you recommend? You guys built websites that you...
I've used Google Sites before.
Do you like it?
I really do. It's actually very simple. In fact, when I was trying to find a new job in D, I built a Google site, which was, I used it basically as a portfolio. So I put all my lessons there and different pages. Apparently it worked. It got me a job.
Well, then, all right, ringing endorsement. They used to not be very attractive, but now there are tons of different themes that you can choose. Right. So, I just chose the default.
And very user-friendly. Very
user-friendly, right? Yeah. So I'll show you that in a minute, what that looks like. But here's the little example. You can put a little picture back there. But on the landing page, if you would, I don't know, make it pretty if you want it to be, but just a little short blurb about what the project is. Something that, what do you see on digital humanities project sites on the landing page that won't be too difficult to enact, but will kind of help your way in? Maybe there's some images, whatever. That I'm less concerned with. The About page is that section of the, as I'm going to the assignment sheet, which I was already on, right there. So you have this collective introduction where you effectively theorize and contextualize your project by drawing on course text, by drawing on existing digital humanities projects, and by drawing on readings and other materials that other people have submitted in our shared site, and also pulling on a couple of digital tools in maybe doing the digital humanities, maybe one of the ones that you played with in the sandbox for today, maybe one of the tools that you found was behind a digital humanities project that you really like. You do not have to know how to use these tools. You do not have to have ever even tried to use these tools. You just, I know that this exists and it might be cool. Because it could be that we need to do something here on our campus with IT, with tech people, to even make it run. Because there was the tool that I want to use for mine, I found it on GitHub, which is if you're not familiar with it, it's just I'm so old. It's BitTorrent for Napster, but it's for computer programs. So it's just a zip file with a whole bunch of stuff. I have no idea what it is. So I sent it to a techie person. I said, "Can this be a thing?" And he said it can be a thing. I don't know how it became a thing, but I certainly couldn't make it a thing in 15 weeks, and certainly not the 2 weeks we have left. So the About page then, oops, where's my website? Okay, yeah. So this is the information here. I'll show it here because let's blast it out. So this is from the assignment sheet, but I put a little bit more info. So that's this About page. Think about it as the About pages of the digital humanities sites that you've been to. The ones that are really really do some useful stuff. For you guys, it's going to be an essay. I mean, you can choose to tell it in a different way. Maybe it can take a different format. Maybe it's like a multimedia thing, maybe do a video or something. But this is where I want you to do the scholarly work. You know, it's kind of, I read some things and those things reminded me of these things, and here's how this conversation goes together, and here's where it falls apart, and here's where this is the gap that my project fits into. And whether that project be a new digital humanities project or whether that project be a culmination of another number of projects that on a particular theme, as I said, you know, like what was it, ghosts that we were looking at before.
Yeah.
Or be it a type of digital humanities tool. So as we talked about, augmented reality or visualization maps or timelines or something like that. So they're on a bunch of different subjects, but they have, but they're doing, you know, they're within the same world so that we can talk about them in similar ways, but also differently. So use that page to help visitors understand your project, its place within the larger conversations in digital humanities, and then an environmental scan, which environmental scan, as I said, is typically the phrasing that's used in a grant application, for example. It's also used out in the business world in ways I don't understand, but to say that this is the kind of stuff that's out there, you know, these are the tools that are out there, these are the projects that are out there. So a thing kind of like what I want to do is out there, but the thing that I want to do is not out there. There is nothing that any human has ever done, except for maybe the first things humans did, that's entirely original. So we have to acknowledge the conversation in which it's coming. And if we aren't acknowledging the conversation in which ours is embedded, we either are not paying attention or we're not looking. And this course is about looking and seeing what's out there and being inspired and learning from what people are doing. I mean, that's why we study anything, right? So, so I would like for you guys to draw, as you're doing that, sort of situating your project, you know, offering what is, offering a, oh, here we go. Contextualizing it, justifying it. That is justifying the prototype that you imagine, this new digital humanities project, but also justifying why all these things go together and why AR matters, for example, or what it can do that other things can't do. And then describe your project. If it is you're doing a multimedia exhibition, then should explain what it's doing, what these things brought together actually show us. And you should be speaking to a visitor who's not familiar with you and is not familiar with the class. And I also want you guys to, so let me go back here. So 4 of our assigned texts. We have read New Digital Worlds. Name some more.
Graphs, maps, and trees.
Graphs, maps, and trees. Reading machines.
Doing digital humanities.
Doing digital humanities.
Reading graphs, maps, and trees.
Reading graphs, maps, and trees.
Rhetoric in the digital humanities.
Rhetoric in the digital humanities. That college English special issue on it, yeah.
Reading.
Reading machines. Okay, I think I got that one. I don't know. I'll put it in there.
Put it in.
What did we start with? Oh, Jones and what?
Emergence of the digital humanities.
Emergence. And good God, really?
Yep.
You guys are great. This is, yeah, that's good. I mean, you're better people for it now, right? No, it's, it was, you know, impossible to narrow down, and then I just narrowed and narrowed and narrowed, and then still the big pile. This is the story of my life. So make use of some of those things. You know, you don't have to make use of them the same ways that you would for any seminar paper, meaning that, you know, I'm just looking at the way this particular scholar talks about archival development amongst indigenous populations. I don't agree with her arguments, but I think that but this is an example of the ways that that's been done. But she does raise a concern. She doesn't mean to. I'm talking Brian right now. She doesn't mean to in ways that I also see in such and such a place. So there's this ethical concern that I see in this place, in this place, in this place, and into it is mentioned this. Or so-and-so builds part of her argument on this premise based on this reading of this text that I've also read, and I disagree. But the goal throughout is to demonstrate your digital humanities chops, right? Probably talk a little bit about definitions. I don't want you to get obsessed about definitions unless you want to be obsessed about definitions, but it's kind of hard to be obsessed about definitions and serve your project at the same time. So try to keep it on target. You're contextualizing your project, you are justifying your project, and getting people excited about it. And so 4 of our assigned texts, and then at least 10 here of additional scholarly journalistic sources, credible blogs, any other resources that are represented in our Zotero thing. You know, you guys have all of your folders here. They're open for all of us. It's a group library, so you'll share your stuff and we'll share, and they'll share their stuff. And you've heard some of it with the rhetorical crises. You're going to hear a little bit more today. At least 4 assigned texts, and these are just arbitrary 10 additional scholarly things, because I want you to like fill in the gaps with like shorter pieces, stuff based on your own research, because maybe you happen to be interested in, I don't know, there's a project called Ghost Bikes that's really interesting. It's about it's an augmented reality project based on what used to be when somebody would die on a bicycle, a memorial would be erected, which was basically a bike that had been painted white, and it would be quickly taken away. So they created this digital humanities project that would, it was a picture of the bike, and it was a story about the biker, and it was also, and the city didn't have enough safety measures or places for cyclists. But so you could see the bike there, you could see the story, you could see the story about the person, and anyway, so that's a way to put those memorials there. So the ghost bike, maybe there's something in there, these social justice projects. And then at least 4 digital humanities projects that inform your own. These can be projects that you found, these can be projects that other people found. People can talk about, Daniel may talk about some of the exact same projects that Peter talks about. That's fine. You're going at it for different reasons. I mean, we're dealing with some of the same sources as well. So working smart, sharing, just like we should always do. And, I say stuff about it being a shared library. Okay, well, I'll look and see what Past Shannon wrote and give an N on that. We've got an edited collection due. It was supposed to be due yesterday, and it's going to be due Friday, and I've just been copy editing. I can't copy edit my own. You should also talk about 1 or more of the digital humanities tools that relate to the theme that is the subject of your project, be a curated exhibit on a selected theme, or the one that might function as a prototype for any digital humanities project that you imagine. So again, connect all those things. This is an essay about your final project. Make that prose, do that work.
Dr. Carter, when you said the digital, will you scroll up just to the paragraph right above that, where it says the digital tools that relate to the theme? Do you mean like the ones that we're going to talk about today that we explored, or do you mean like graphs, maps, and trees, or do you mean?
What I mean is, it could be the one that you are doing today. It could be graphs, maps, and trees. Whatever it is, it should be one that is useful to your project. So, so this isn't a comprehensive exam. It's basically, you know, I know based on my desires for my project that a combination of distant reading and close reading is going to be important, which a combination that our digital new digital worlds person suggests is an important combination, and that so-and-so in reading graphs, maps, and trees says it's important, but one that also embodies the graphs, maps, and trees mechanisms, argument, quote from the seminal text by Moretti kind of thing. So what tool you choose is totally up to you. It could be something that somebody else presented on. But I mean, it could be that you enjoyed this tool and you might use it in your classroom. It has nothing to do with the project that you want to work with. It could be that the tool was a dud and you never want to see it again. But it's whatever will serve your project. Other questions? Okay, so this is the essay. Oh yeah, you don't have to know about the tool, just its existence, be able to describe what it is designed to do and how it serves your project. If you aren't going with the prototype, then share something about the tools upon which your models might be drawing. So you might not know, but a lot of times, because in digital humanities, which draws a lot of its ethos in some ways from the National Institute of Health and the sciences, who are all about transparency in terms of their sources and their methodology. I mean, we tend to be hoarders in the humanities, which we surely shouldn't be. And we don't share methodologies, which we definitely need to do. But people have to be able to follow our research. So, so a lot of digital humanities projects on their About page or somewhere there, but usually on their About page will say that they adapted this open source tool. A lot of them are open source, like Omeka or some of the tools that you guys have heard about. They've adapted it, and so you can draw upon that too as you're talking about the digital humanities project. You can say it runs on X, a tool that does Y. And that could be a quote. You don't have to know exactly what that means, but this is not a technical class. This is a concept class. So, but just know that, you know, there are tools. If you aren't going with a prototype, yeah, share something upon your models, okay. But, oh, what they could be drawing on. They may not say, but you might say, you know, this kind of looks like it could be fueled by blah, blah, blah. Okay, questions about the About page? Yes, Jennifer.
It takes me forever to unmute. I'm sorry. Okay, so I have this urge to like draw a map on manila paper with map pencils and take a picture of it and say, if I was smart enough, I would have used X to create this. Is that crazy?
No, it isn't. I'm so glad you said that, because we have a prototype tab for those of you guys who want to build something. I'm going to show you some tools that you can use, but I want to point out that even a drawing done by hand, yours or someone you know, take a photograph, upload it, because it shows us what you're doing, right? You know, maybe you need some construction paper, maybe you need to get down on the floor and do some finger paints. I don't know, but whatever it is that helps, not only it helps you probably visualize what it'll be, and then it definitely is something that can help communicate what you want the thing to do. Since I'm in this place, this is the prototype wireframe. Not every project will have this page. You'll only have this page if you are planning on imagining a project. To create a prototype, you can do it by, I have done it with PowerPoint, just an empty text box, and you know, if you remember, mine was this square with a YouTube clip in the middle and a bunch of little boxes that did everything. Well, I just put a square in the middle and a triangle on it to represent a YouTube, and then little text boxes around it, and I wrote with a, insert text what each of those things were going to be, and I had like an A, B, C, D kind of thing going on. It didn't end up looking a lot like that, but that was just, these are the things and this is where they're going to be. So you could do that. Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
I'm sorry. Okay, so the paper part is something that we'll upload, turn in, but this isn't something. Well, this is something we'll actually bring with us to the presentation. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty close. What I'm suggesting, Greg, is that you build a website that'll hold all of this stuff. So this has a page that'll be your about page, the essay essentially that you're writing to back it up. And then you'll have a page that is related digital humanities projects. And it doesn't have to be a document thing. I just do that because it's easier, because when I change a document in Google Docs, it automatically changes in here.
Mm-hmm.
But there are prettier ways to do this. So these different parts from the final project, the introduction, your curated DH projects, and which I'll talk about in a second, but anything that you have pulled out is separately listed, the Ghost Bike project, and the information there, a link to it, and then often, I guess I would imagine, a rhetorical précis that would go into that. This would probably be one of the digital humanities sites projects that that's already in our Zotero library, so you could just use that prose. But interrupt you, Greg. Oh, I didn't interrupt you.
Oh no, I was just saying yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. And then you'll have a page that's going to be, one page that's going to be digital humanities projects, and one page that's going to be digital humanities like resources. These are both be annotated lists. And both of those annotated lists will probably echo some of the sources that you spoke about in your kind of a bibliographic essay a bit, but it's really in the service of a single project, but it sort of does function like that. So you'll be reusing these resources, but I want some sort of pop-out standout so that people who aren't necessarily going to be immediately drawn to read your 1,200-word essay can go and look at, these are several very different digital humanities projects on the Janes. Hello, darling. And in those blurbs, you would do something to help connect those things. But the heavy lifting of the justification and contextualization would be in the about section. And then you'll have bios. So what I see you doing, and then we can talk about variations that we need to do on this to better serve what you want to do, because I want this to allow you to communicate what it is that you're envisioning in ways that can happen with or without you there to present it, and whether or not these people have anything to do with this class. But I also don't want any template to constrain your vision. So if you have things that we need to do to this to make that work, then let's do that. So what I envision is that for next week, you will build a rough site, or just a wiretape frame of a site, which I'll show you about on that could be ugly, like this one, just bare bones, but it has these pieces. You can have the start and maybe just an outline, some bits of prose, some sources, whatever your rough draft is on the about, that'll have a list of those related digital humanities projects, that'll have 10 resources that have annotations, that if this is appropriate have a prototype thing, and that we'll also have, usually it's called contact on the digital humanities project sites, I really mean bios, so, little short blurbs. If you're concerned, like maybe I have had students in the past who have stalkers, so they give another name, or yeah, don't put your home address. But this is also an academic credit too, so do that if you want. So if you are doing just an exhibition, you won't have this prototype one. Okay, questions thus far? All right, so how many of you guys are going all out and planning to, these are going to be graded, not going to get a better score or a lesser score depending on which you choose. This isn't a like, figure me out kind of thing. What does she really want me to do? They're equally important projects. I want this to serve you, and I also want to see some cool projects. So how many of you guys are thinking about building a multimedia exhibition on existing projects? Okay, that's the Janes, right? Yeah. Okay, how many of you guys are imagining a new digital humanities project? Okay, all right. Wild things, love it. I love both of it because, let's try that. That's the sentence that I'm going to keep. I'm going to embrace it. Love both of it. All right, so it's great, right? So if you decide, if you decide to do a diorama, do a video of it and show it to us, this is a 3D scale kind of thing.
I didn't want you, but
I doubt you do, right?
I didn't know that was an option.
So how many of you guys have used Prezi before?
Is that what we use in that project?
Okay, so what do you guys think about it? Tamara, do you like it?
I do. It's better than just a normal PowerPoint, and so for presenting information to students, they tend to get bored with just a PowerPoint. But the Prezi, especially when you're turning over the wheels for a flipped classroom, they enjoy it. And it's really easy to create as well. I like it. It's free. That's even better.
Yeah. I love how it looks. I find it really complicated to make happen. But basically, you have an infinite amount of canvas to work with. So it's good for like flow charts or something like that. You've got some neat templates to deal with. Things swing into stuff and they swing back out.
This is what a lot of my 1302
Yeah.
students used for their midterm presentation. I thought they were just amazing PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's what they want you to think.
What's really great about it is you can keep adding. So if you need to add, it's like kind of a web chart. If you need to add another bubble to it, you can add another bubble to it, and you can keep going and make it as detailed as you need to. It's really flexible and user-friendly.
Huh.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why I thought this might be useful is if you're talking about, like, you don't really know what you want the interface to look like, but you know what you want it to do. Like you want whatever it is to dig into what could we learn about the means of production, because I'm doing this collection that's very Marxist. If we were to look simply at those Christmas big cans of popcorn, so if we were to trace the various hands through which this product had to go, from the guys who made the popcorn and whatever their labor conditions were, to I mean, I didn't bake the popcorn. I sure don't know anything about this. They plant the corn, they cultivate the ground, they pop the popcorn, and then it goes someplace and they put butter on it and caramel on it. It goes someplace else and it's packaged someplace else, and maybe I want to trace distribution like that, and I've got some kind of humanities thing to say about that, like damn the world, but I don't know what it's going to look like. I just know that I want to trace these things, and so I could just flow chart it. This is the kind of stuff. I don't know what it should look like on the at the end when it actually spits out this input, but I do know that I want it to pull from these various places. So this is really an easy way to. A lot of ways people use it is kind of flowcharty, like you were saying, like I have circle, 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 connection, connection, connection. This circle, I go into this circle and I find out about corn production and cultivation, and then I swing in a little bit further and I find out about the history of agriculture surrounding corn, and then I zoom in a little bit further and I get to slavery, and I zoom in a little further, and boom, it's Thanksgiving dinner with the Indians right before we do that genocide thing. So I got dark, right?
I didn't think we were going to go all out.
We went all the way in. So I don't know if there's anything that can do this thing. I don't even know if anybody should ever do this thing. I love those cans of caramel popcorn, but it's possible that you can not necessarily just show us what the interface is, but there's no just about that. If you can't visualize what you want it to look like up front, but you know what kinds of back work you want it to do, then you could visualize that. But do that within the context of what other people are doing and what tools might serve portions of this. That again, as anything that you do in graduate school and academia more generally, nothing is going to be a one-on-one match. I know that when I have my junior students, junior English majors, are sometimes hesitant to do, so I think your students might say this too. There is no research on X super broad topic that that a zillion people have spoken about it. Nothing is about that thing. When things are about that thing, this kid may be wanting to research gun control surrounding Sandy Hook. But to do that, he needs to look at not just gun control surrounding Sandy Hook, but also gun control elsewhere in some government reports regarding this violence and all of that stuff, like stuff that's related to it, but not exactly it. The same thing with digital humanities projects, right? I mean, it's related to it. It provides some of the information. It's not specifically that. Or you could do like Jennifer and show us a picture. Have you drawn it already?
No, but I have drawn it in my mind a lot of times. I was
okay
when I asked that kind of, but now I'm excited. So.
Oh, good. Okay. Excellent. All right. So here also is something that you might find helpful that does anybody know about? I've got links to some suggestions for PowerPoint and Prezi. There's this link right here, recommended tools for sharing works in progress. So I've got some screencasting tools. I want to ask for other recommendations, because the people who are listening to this in the future who can't come to our workshop next time to share their work can do a screencast, and if they're not familiar with screencasts, I'll get you guys to give some recommendations. But also in this recommended tools for sharing works in progress is wireframes. And anybody know about a wireframe?
Probably not in this context.
Probably not. It's an on paper, like this construction paper thing, low commitment way to plan out what a major digital project, including a website. It might be also technical project, but I don't really know anything about that. Sort of what will it look like, you know, so you can show, you know, what I just talked about, what I did on through PowerPoint, you can do with a couple of kind of fun to use tools. So look at that, that's wireframing. Layout of a web page often it demonstrates what interface elements will exist. This is a wireframe, and these, you know, different buttons. And there are a couple of free sources that will let you create these wireframes. So here are several sources that you can use with some pros and cons about wireframes. See if there's any. Okay, here's, yeah. So he's doing a web page here, and it's got, you know, little boxes. You know, there's that video thing is a common thing, so you can do that. There's like little buttons of different shapes that you can show. An inspiration board. I don't know how that would work as a wireframe, but that's what I try. Look at this color one. This is some more of the popcorn project that I'm going to try. I'm not going to try. But in any way, it tells you what these various projects will do and what's useful about them. So you see, like, I'm going to go up to this one. So this one, you know, we've got this button that leads. So press page 1. So where does it go? You know, press page 2. Where does it go? You would describe that in prose below, or you would just point it out to us and include maybe that portion of our recording with that. This one, instead of showing you what the button looks like, shows you where the button goes. So if you click that button, you go to that button, which gives you access to that button, and so forth. So depending on how you want to visualize that. And Mockflow, an entire design library of templates to help you create website and app interface, blueprint, site maps, and more. This is a site map. These things aren't built for showing off digital humanities projects, but they're kind of fun to use. You just kind of move things around, drop and then what comes out is typically, it can be this colorful thing. I don't think in those terms, so I wouldn't be able to do that. But it just might be this, you know, pencil-looking drawing thing. But again, you can just do it with pen and paper. So there's some sources for these wireframing. And the other thing you can do, okay, okay, back up. Questions thus far?
I have a
Yes,
question. Okay, so I know you haven't discussed the bibliography yet, but that will take care of like any plagiarism kind of thing. That, like, say we put a link to another site in one of those where there was like the arrow and the info on the side. Like, is that what you want us to do? Like, say we found this site and it kind of goes along with what I'm saying, so click here to see that. If I'm even smart enough to do that, like, but so the bibliography page is going to take care of any plagiarism kind of stuff, right?
Well, yes and no. What I visualize, I don't visualize the resources as being exactly a bibliography. It's, well, I mean, it is. I visualize it as an annotated bibliography. So the source, Inside Higher Education article, and then rhetorical précis, and then the next source, and annotated bib, so that visitors can get a quick look at some relevant digital humanities content. So
technically links to things would not need that because you're just giving a link to it, right?
Right. In fact, they love it because you're increasing traffic to their stuff.
And another question is this: do we need to do the website, and if we did like the presentation on Prezi in addition to that, or everybody does the website?
Okay, that's the next question. I'm glad you asked that. In my mind, the website allows you to do all these little different things that I'm asking for you don't have to put them in that format. Prezi allows you to also link out to stuff. So as long as it's clear to me that you have, you have a thorough about page that does all the contextualization that I want, that as long as you have some, at least, 4 of these, you have annotated lists of resources that are not digital humanities projects but are about digital humanities projects, and you have another list that are digital humanities projects, and if you have a prototype that's relevant, Prezi's fine, because that's definitely shareable, and it could be pretty cool looking too. This is static, it's easy to use. My concern is that it just has those elements. So this site gives you a little more information about what I want in each of those elements, especially in the About section, but it doesn't have to be in a website at all. Are you having a vision for this, Jennifer?
Well, I was wondering, so in the 1,200 words, I didn't know whether to fit in, I guess it's a total of like 18 different things we'd mentioned, the 4 and the 10 and the 4, or would we, like, throughout the whole presentation, if one of the websites popped in and we put a link to it, if that would count as using that and we don't have to write about it. Does that make sense?
You mean if you link to it within the essay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, or if we showed it somewhere else besides the annotated bibliography, like what if we mentioned, 6 things when we write about it in the 1,200 words and then kind of put the other links throughout the thing? Would that count as it being there? Does that make sense?
So yes, I'm glad you asked that. So what I would suggest is this thing that is probably my favorite scholarly thing that I've ever learned in my life. We're doing Chicago format for this book, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to say I'm mentioning sites that use augmented reality. And I'm going to say in text parenthesis citation C, Smith, 2014, I don't know, Big Bird, see what she wrote, 2011, who else are we going to go with?
Oscar the Grant.
Oscar, I was going to put Trash Can Willie, I don't know who that is. 1977, and I just went to the Mr. Rogers Museum, so I'm going to go with Fred Rogers. I won't put his list. Rogers. 1977. Okay, so now that's going to be in my bibliography at the end of this essay. The full citation is, but the ones that I'm really hot about, the ones that I really want somebody to go look at, I'm going to take that Big Bird Digital Humanities project and I'm going to put it on my annotated bib for the Digital Humanities projects. Or if the Rogers source is actually, an article, then I would put that on the resources page and give an annotation there. So, so you're right. I mean, you don't have that much room, so you may not need to spend it describing every little thing. Basically, you're saying, some of the things you have to describe, but some of the things are like, you know what, that thing that I just said, also this does it, and this does it, and this does it, and this does it. And if those things all do the same thing, you probably just use one of them to highlight. But these are like your showcase. Think of these as showcase spaces. Like, here's some articles that you may have referenced in your essay, or may not have, but they're really good, and you should read them. So here's why I'm highlighting them. And you can just, you can make use of your rhetorical précis. You've got your notes that you've written for these sources that you have on Zotero. So you can pull from all that prose.
I have a question, just
Yes.
to clarify.
Absolutely.
So this 1,200 word, and you may have already said this, but I just want to make sure I have it right. The 1,200 words should go in this About section?
Yes, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Go
Going to that Livingston online thing again, it's doing a little bit more than I want us to do. He has several project documents about the guy and about the project itself and the way that they're using it. These are all the texts that he has. That's not gonna help us. But I thought that he had it's an introduction. This is what it is. This is its history, and this is why the content that it's doing is important. This is really only about the Livingston, so he didn't apparently write this for a digital humanities class with Shannon Carter. But yeah, it's just about the project, but it's also about digital humanities. So context. Other stuff? How you feeling, Bob?
Do you want the polite answer or the honest answer?
How about give me honest?
Totally overwhelmed.
Okay. Anybody else? I bet you're not alone. So, do you have a place to gain enough footing to articulate what's overwhelming you, or is it just the avalanche of it all?
Just the avalanche of it all, and having to deal with a long-distance car situation with my son up in Illinois. So we're trying to reconstruct a classic automobile. So I'm thinking maybe that will become my digital humanities project if we can ever get the thing fixed.
Okay, so how are you going to do this between now and then? All right, I hope this answer will help you some. This does not have to be done between now and next week. This needs to be done enough that you can help us see what it is that you visualize so we can give you some meaningful feedback. So if, for example, you're able to do the annotated bibs, the annotated resources, annotated digital humanities projects, because you know that those are going to be pretty important to the essay part, then get us there and tell us, you need to contextualize and justify, and so you might just give yourself an outline of the kinds of things that you might talk about, because here's the goal. The goals are several things. The goals are for us to see what you have in mind, what kinds of things you're bringing together, for us to get excited about it, for us to shower you with the enthusiasm you need to make it happen, but also because digital humanities work is so incredibly collaborative. We really need each other. We read all this stuff together. We had these conversations together, and then you had these conversations, outside the classroom in a bunch of different directions in the world through your blogs, and you talk to one another. The conversations, dissipated and came back in, and some of those came back into the classroom. Some of them never came in again. Some of them will. So I say all of that to say that collectively we know the hell out of a lot of things. We don't all know the same stuff, but we have a shared library, but we don't need to know all of that stuff. So the idea is that you'll come and show. It doesn't even have to be a website. It can be a, it could be a PowerPoint that has some really rough bits. This is the page that I think is going to do such and such. But I want to see that you're thinking about all these parts. But you'll start with, if you go this route, give us a little blurb. Here's what I see my project doing, if it's going to do a thing, or here's the concept or the theme of my final project as I'm visualizing it right now. And here are 4 primo examples of that I really, really like. And when you do that, maybe others will say, now I know what you're doing, and I saw X project. I actually have it in my folder. You might go look for it. Here's what it does. It'll blow your mind, and it'll make you rethink everything. Or you're walking us through your about essay and you're saying, okay, so the way I see it contextualized, and we were talking about, I think I'm going to do a graph. I'm not going to do a graph. That's too hard to even for me to imagine doing. I want to do an interactive map that traces the way capitalism cycles popcorn for Christmas. I know that this Project X that traces the distribution channels of oil is really going to be useful. But I don't like the way the interface looks, but it's useful. I think it does some neat things, and here's what I like about it. And I really like this site that looks at a history of the package design on cans of popcorn over the last 100 years. I don't know how those relate, but maybe they do, I don't know. Anyway, so you guys think, I know something that is totally about nothing to do with that, but I think that it might relate. Hear me out. So we're helping each other contextualize. We're helping draw each other to other sources. Also, part of what we'll be doing is that reminds me of a thing that I read. I really want us to do that reminds me of a thing that I read, because those kinds of notes will help bolster the arguments that you're making. So I hadn't thought about the connection between what Jones is saying about the aversion, the zombie apocalypse digital humanities project that I'm sure exists somewhere. Here's how I see these two things connecting. What do you think? So, you'll each have some time to say, here's my project in process. We know now that Bob's building a car between here and Illinois, so he can do as much of the project as he can do. And you'll fill us in. What's your plan? And we can help you work that through. The more you have done for us by next week, the more useful we're going to be able to be to you, because you're going to have a better handle on what it is that you want to do. But you could be totally stuck too, in many different ways, and that's why we'll be here for that. Depending on how many people want to present, and it's also not required for you to workshop with us. I hope you'll take advantage of this time with us to workshop, but you're not required to. So if you really are not ready to share anything with us, you don't have to. I just want it to be the strongest project possible. If the first time, I don't want the first time for any of us to see any part of it to be at the final project presentation phase. That is too stressful on you guys. But if you have no other way around it, you can't really do the work until then, or you can't sync up schedules to visit with me or to be here to share, or you can't get it shareable soon enough, then that's not going to down your grade. But take advantage, right? I mean, the people in here are so smart and so generous. I mean, and it's also recorded, so you can go back to it and see, ooh, what was it that they said? That was really good. I can't remember. Feel any better?
Yes, and you actually forced me to make a note to myself to order up a can of Chicago blend from Garrett's in Chicago. So.
There you go. The positive energy flowing from this class just...
when you mentioned the popcorn, I was like, oh, wow, Garrett's, okay. If you haven't tried it, try it.
I have not heard of it.
If anyone's got parts for a 1994 Mercury Cougar, let me know.
All right. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say about that. Okay, so I did that. Websites. Let's look at website builder, Google Sites. Google Sites. Get started. Oh, let's do a tutorial. Let's do Google Sites tutorial. Just so you can kind of see what it'll do. Oh, no, I know. Yeah, mine looks like this. I just put my title of the page there. If I want to make a, oh, is this going to show me that? Okay, so this is just, they've chosen the text box and I'm putting it directly in here, but they can put an image directly in there and they can embed something. But this right here lets them go to anything that they've uploaded to Google Docs and stick it in there, and it retains the paper formatting, which, as I said, is easier. So okay, so that, yeah, this is that part. So they apparently embedded a form. I didn't know you could do that, but this is, you've got an insert tab. You've got a insert. All it's going to be insert. You got a pages tab as well. So a GIF, I guess. Yeah, so they just made a page. Some crap on there. Okay, stop doing that. Oh, do that. You got themes too. And that's the insert buttons, which I've never done. And he's going to keep doing that. I'll just go to the tutorial real quick. Since I just think if you see it, it'll, I'm not going to watch 13 minutes of that.
You think you already have a stunning website? That's cool. You're welcome to skip or create your site now at Wix.com. There are
I'm Jamie Keat, and today in this Google Sites tutorial, we're going to be talking about how to edit your layout. So we're going to be looking at how to switch your menu bar to a, I've set up a, you can see I have number, horizontal navigation, sidebar, images are across on.
Anyway, I'll go back to that picture. You guys are smart, you can visualize this. So insert stuff right there, pages right there, and pages, it's just a plus button, and you press plus, and then plus puts a title, you know, now it's a press gives me I title that page, and it goes up there at the top. I can also arrange it so my pages are on another side. I can arrange it so that there's like so there's a drop down. You know, I can put pictures on it. I can fiddle with it. So you're graded on the content and how well you eventually communicate to us what it is that this project's about, whether it's an exhibition or not, and why it matters. You'll have about 10 minutes to do that, to demonstrate it. Think of it in terms of, a little bit in terms of your digital humanities presentation, except that, you know, it's your own. So if you're presenting like a what might have been, here's tell us a little bit about that. We're going to have access to your site so we can look at all of that later. So this will be kind of a trailer for it to get us excited about it. And again, that doesn't have to be a website, but it does have to contain all these details. And it has to be in a form that I can understand. Now, if you really want to get really out there, avant-garde, you've got a vision that does not match anything that you can label effectively in the ways that I'm talking about, then do that too, but you'll have to accompany it with some kind of reflective essay. You have to do a reflective essay in here anyway, but that could be one where you say, okay, all right, Shannon, that part where I'm seeing X on page 14, that's the thing that you might call resources. So that kind of stuff. So there's flexibility, but also a little bit of structure. I want this to work for you, because if it works for you, then it's more likely to be interesting to me, and everything's about me, so that's how it all goes. Okay, next week, the last thing, prepare something for us to talk about. This again, this is voluntary but strongly encouraged. It's peer to you on a solid draft of your midterm project, and whether that be outlines, whether that be, you know, when it's done, what I think you'll see here is this. Then we'll help, you know, say, well, I'm not really understanding what you're doing about X. Can you walk me through that more? And that might help you redesign your prototype a little bit. and then also helping us bolster sources and pulling some things together that for that. And so as you prepare, make sure you have those different pieces. So create the thing, and then a couple of things. You can get feedback in here, and you can also get feedback from your blog. So or just the blog if you don't want to present to us. So I've created a folder for peer review and also for conferences. So in this peer review folder, if you'll upload whatever it is that you want us to peer review your site, so we can look at it. But another version of what you can do is create a blog post, and in that blog post have links to whatever resources we need. Or could be that you have artifacts that you haven't quite decided how to incorporate into the digital project that you're going to be presenting to us. So just embed those in that. Give them links to them. You know, I kind of want this to look like X. Just the things that I really have questions about are Y. And then just in general, do you think this is worth doing? That kind of stuff, and we should respond to one another in those ways. But if you have a blog post that has the information that you need in order to present it to us for the workshop, then put that blog post here, and we'll do it from there. I'm told that sharing screens is not difficult. Anyway, so upload that, and also for you guys watching in the future, upload a screencast so that we can look at that and we can give you feedback, and then you can go listen later to it and make use of it. And then for the following week, if you're going to have a conference with me, put it here so that I'll be able to see it. We can also try to share screens. We'll record that for those that we do it in this classroom. I think that's it. Recommended tools for sharing, and that's where the screencasting stuff is and wireframes are. And you've got DH projects to look at in here, and everybody's entries to root for, a bunch of folders to go through. So that's what I want before next week. Any other questions? All right, I can't wait to see what you guys are coming up with. You know how to reach me. A couple of you guys emailed me yesterday. I have not forgotten that I owe you an email. We just I can, at certain points, apparently, tunnel vision. But this project is just so the fiddly details at the end, and I adore my collaborators, but one of them, I'm wringing his damn neck next time I see him. But he's brilliant, and I never want to not work with him. Or her. Nobody's going to know who these co-editors are. No, my people are great. I love them. I love them. But collaboration's sometimes hard, especially at the 11th hour, when none of us want to do the nitpicky little damn details, like copy edits or change citations or make sure that we, okay. So I will come back as a teacher and I will respond to your questions. But if you have questions that you ask me via email that you are willing to ask me now that might be of interest to other people, I know that one of you guys is still having trouble accessing at least one blog to respond to. Was that you, Abigail? No.
I'm good.
Good. She's good. All right. All right. So at this point then, I am gonna turn it over to you guys. We'll start by playing with these. You know, guys, did you enjoy playing with your tools? Was it frustrating? Was it inspiring? Was it a?
I wanted to play with mine more, but it costs money. And you don't know that
it's not free.
The account. And so I got to explore, and they had a gallery where you could see what others had done. That was fascinating. Okay. So you could pay for an individual. You could pay for a school, and the school was actually really affordable, but it was all in British pounds, and so I didn't take time to do the conversion to US dollars. But it looked really fascinating, and it could definitely be a tool that I would use with my students.
Okay. What about you, Greg?
I enjoyed it. I learned, different things. I probably end up using the tool that I messed with, but I'm sure we'll go into talking about that. But overall, I enjoyed it and learned from it. So I thought it was a good little project. I'm glad it was just a sandbox project because I saw after about 2 hours, I said, okay, I need to walk away from it.
I said, set that timer. It's a time suck, huh? Especially this time of semester. Oh my God. So we're not able to, or we don't think we're able to right now, share a screen. And while we're waiting, how did you guys, the others, experience the tool you played with?
I really liked mine. I did Wakelet, and it was actually really helpful. It's kind of like the cross between Pinterest and Zotero, and like super useful, I think.
But
mine was kind of weird.
Oh, wait, weird. Okay. How so?
Well, the last time I remember opening up Wikipedia, it was always on accident because I have no idea how to source stuff on that. It was always HTML, and I can't like write that or read it. So I was always kind of like, what kind of portal did I open? And now they have this thing where you can do a preview of it, and it looks just like the page itself. So that was pretty cool. I like how they updated it for people that aren't really good at coding or anything.
Oh, good. Make it much more accessible that way.
Oh, yeah.
And Tamara, you liked yours, but it's expensive. What was yours?
Mine was the fake book. And remember, I'd used it old school on just poster board. And so this was the first time playing around with the digital. And it really did have where you could put a picture of your person for whom you're creating the fake book account. You could create friends and what would their friends say, and you could create that news feed going on for them. And you could link it to other friends. And so it was really interactive. So I could see where if my students were doing To Kill a Mockingbird, they could create a fake book account for Scout and have Jem or Dill, it would be really fascinating. And it wasn't overly expensive. It was about $12 US if I did the conversion right just now. $50 for a school account, but it wasn't clear on how many students that would cover. I just know it was $12 is more than what I was willing to spend right now on an account that I wouldn't use.
Yeah. No, this was a free play with it game.
But I did get sucked into the gallery, and so there were different galleries. Students had created fake book accounts for Shakespeare. Some had created fake book accounts for Galileo, and so I found out that not just literature. I'm in that literature brain, but science teachers were using it so they could get their students into the science mode and what were the scientists doing at that time and what was their lifestyle, so they would understand the experiments that were being done. It was really fascinating.
See, that's the way to teach science, like the humanities, right?
Yes.
I took mathematics for humanities majors. It was the history of humanities, of math. It was so good. Yeah, but that's cool. And you guys, you enjoyed yours, you said, right?
I got really mad at.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Because
I got mixed up. I enjoyed hearing you talk about it.
No, he said, and we sit close, so it could have just been transposition there. He enjoyed it. Mine was frustrating.
And that was the one that you originally had your eye on, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's fine. I realized that the project isn't built to answer the type of questions it sounded like it was. So it's just one less thing to worry about playing with later.
What about, while we're waiting, final projects? What are you doing, Daniel? Do you know?
For my final
project?
Did
you finally decide?
Yeah, I think I want to do something similar to that Re-Envisioning Japan, but with Ireland and with focusing on that play, the Brian Frugal play that I presented last semester at the conference. and having lots of connections to like cultural artifacts and videos and clips, and so something like that, I think, is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
Using timelines.
Hi, digital humanities projects remaining. So, so who wants to go first? Okay, so how about your tool? What did you play with?
Cool.
Talk a little bit about.
I did Wakelet, and I'm just going to pull it up through the blog because I have screenshots there. So if you go, it's just wakelet.com, and you make an account, and so it's kind of like, I said on here, initially I was trying to figure out how it would be any different than Pinterest, because you basically can just like bookmark things that you think would be in a good collection, which is just made me think of like a Pinterest board. So this is what your screen looks like. It's this, you like title it, and then you can add different things. You can also add the Chrome extension, kind of like Zotero, where you can just drag and drop things. So if you do that, every time you open a new screen, it shows like different tabs that you have open if you want to use those as one of your things. So that's cool. But these are the different things you can do, or different things you can add. You can add a URL, you can add a text box, YouTube videos, tweets, different bookmarks, whatever, images and PDFs. So you can have different types of information instead of just instead of just websites. You could add different things or different types of like artifacts. So this is what it looks like when you add or save a bookmark, and then you can just pick which board or which collection you add it to, and then you have space for a little abstract. And then I just did a super simple collection just to play with it, to see how it would work for my project, to see how it would work for my students. So I just, you can put an image, and then which, you know, the title of your collection, and then here's one of the resources we're going to use, and you know, you can just post different things, and it just kind of, I don't know, makes a chain of them there, so that you could go back later and you would have all of your information on there. So,
okay, so
it's really useful, or could be. So
yeah, it's easy to use. It looks good. It's got a plug-in, so a way for your students to organize stuff, different kinds of artifacts instead of just pictures.
Yeah,
that's great. Do you think that you could use or would want to use that in concert with what you developed for the final project in this class?
I think it's a really good place for you, like, to organize your information. So I did this kind of dummy one, but I think I'm going to actually try to use it, because I've been saving everything under just a bookmark. Like in my bookmarks tab, it just has like, where is it? DH projects, and then it just has a bunch of junk. And so when you do that, it's hard to organize what it is.
Yeah.
So this way you can, you could add, sorry, where my screen is, it's hard to see this. If I make a new tab, then it automatically brings these things up. So
the ones that are,
okay, well, I want to add my Google site to this, and I want to add my, these are just planning documents from, but maybe I want to, add different things, then I could pull that over there. And then when I go back to the Wakelet, oh, I might have to refresh it. But when I go back to the Wakelet and refresh it, evidently, and it should save it. I see that, and then watch it not work. Oh, yeah. So it would save that different thing there. So I just liked it because it wasn't just websites that you could save. Like, you could put a bunch of different types of artifacts there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And so you did think you'd use it with your students? Is that what you said? Yeah.
I do. I think it would be really good for like research projects and things like that, because they could really easily just pull things over And you could also create an annotated bibliography this way, like a digital version where they can just pull in their artifact, and then under it, so you have that, explain why they use that to do just kind of a different type of annotated bib, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. And it's much more attractive. It
is, and you can add different pictures. I didn't do a very good job of adding. Oh, that's creepy. But you could do this one's less creepy. Let's see what they have. So you can do like background images, and then so they have they have text, they have videos.
It's kind of Tumblr-like, right? Or it's a Tumblr image. What's that one with the images?
Oh, Google Maps you could add on there. That's cool. So it's some, I don't know, I just think it's a neat way to look at things, and you can see all the information that you have all in the same place. Sometimes when you have it like on a Google Doc or something, you have to kind of click into each thing. That's really pretty. But it has, this way you have it all right there in front of you, and you can move things around, like you can reorder them. So if you wanted to put all of one type in one place.
Social media-y then, or you can like stuff and respond to things?
Well, because this is an Instagram post that they saved. You can save social media things and add it on there. You could save a tweet. You could save, different.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's I think the way she used it is the way there was something called a stories. There was another version of this that you could use, but you could write a paper remixed entirely from Tumblr posts and Facebook posts and tweets. So you could have like a contemporary author talking about, maybe their response to, or you can look at one state's response to 9/11 or something like that, and you can create an essay essentially that is made up of different kinds of media. That so yeah, very cool.
So, that would be cool.
Okay, and that looks very yummy. Okay, so we'll break. Who'd like to go next? Brian? Okay, thanks. I'll make my announcement real quick. So I don't know that everybody's here yet, but preparing for next week, I told you guys that it should be, the project that you share with us should be far enough along that we can give you good feedback because we can see what it is that you're trying to do. But then it just dawned on me that you also don't want it so far along that us giving you feedback is just irritating because you have to undo so much. So I think, think in terms of outlines and sketches and also stuff that's easily revisable. We're not going to tell you to undo everything. What we want to do is help you realize your vision.
Don't glue the figures in the diorama.
Do not glue the figures in the diorama. Yes. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. Just sort of set them in there.
Because then you need a new shoebox. And who has two shoeboxes?
That's two shoeboxes.
I don't even know if I have one.
All right. Brian, tell us about it.
So, Ingram Viewer, when you pull it up, this is the default, this first picture here is the default image. It's hard to read this. It's even harder to read on the blog, but this is a blown up PDF of it. They have Albert Einstein, comma, Sherlock Holmes, comma, and Frankenstein. So they're tracing an author, someone who would have written things, a character who would have appeared in several different books, and one specific book. And you get a pretty nice representation of their popularity over time. So I decided my initial question was going to be how, what percentage of science fiction was dystopia? But before I started with a question that big, I took the granddaddy of them and I just typed in 1984, 1984, and hit enter. And you get a spike a little after 1980. Yeah. And then it goes away, which is, I thought, okay,
So let's revise this. So I added George Orwell. This is George Orwell, 1984, and this is a much more reasonable representation of the popularity of the book, probably. This is 1960 for reference. So it goes way up, and it remains pretty popular. And I said, okay. Then I just tried Orwell, George Orwell, put them in and got a slope. And I said, it makes sense that you get different numbers here because by typing in George Orwell, theoretically, you're getting the entire, you're getting Animal Farm, you're getting politics in the English language. I said, oh, speaking of politics in the English language, let's put that in and see if that was ever popular. So this is the scale for that. But before I got this nice actual representation, I originally typed it all lowercase, which apparently you can't do. This is the error message that you get, that if you put politics in the English language all lowercase, you get a let's see, no valid engrams to plot, engrams not found, politics in the English language. The engram viewer is case sensitive, check your capitalization. So I got this first and then this one.
Okay.
But for editing's sake, I chose to flip them. So then to work on the theme, dystopias, I added one. So this is for Fahrenheit 451. This is 1960. Here's a big spike and it remained pretty popular. Then I tried to do what it does in the default page when you first load it, 3 things separated by commas. So this is Fahrenheit 451, comma, 1984, comma, and then station 11, which is much more recent. You get the spike for the year, and then the other 2 are just flat lines. Now, Fahrenheit 451 spelled exactly the way as it was right here. When you put it in a comma with other things, it's a flat line. I also know that Station 11 is a new book, so maybe that's throwing it off. So I removed it, and I did the exact same dystopia unit that I did in high school. This is 1984, comma, Fahrenheit 451, comma, Brave New World. Same thing. 1984 gets a spike, 2 flat lines.
Interesting. Oh, again, I did know this from the news that 1984 skyrocketed after the last election.
That's not the problem with the data. We don't get to that till the end.
No? Okay.
Yeah, it's bonkers. But so I said, all right, what's throwing the penny on the tracks here is Station 11. I took it out. I ran the unit. Again, weird results. Can't possibly be right. So then just Station 11, which was published, I don't know, 2000 something. I can't remember off the top of my head. Apparently it was popular, between 1860 and 1880. Here's a spike for Station 11. Here's a spike for Station 11. Book wasn't out. Book wasn't out yet.
What?
Book didn't exist.
Oh!
Book's recent. Book's very, very recent. Book's more recent than the data goes to.
Well, is it...
So something was... So here's where I say, if you're looking for specific data on one book, I'd say it's maybe 3.5 stars, right? What is on my blog that didn't make this, I should pull that up. The last thing I did was, I didn't have time to, this is the only one I can't scale up. This is 1984 again, but spelled out. Not 1984, but 1984, and the date is different. So the problem is not with our stars, but with our spelling is where I ended with this, because you put in something like Fahrenheit 451 all by itself gives you one scale. You add something with it and it skews, it changes the results. You get different results in a way that I wasn't able to account for. And I've literally never seen the book 1984 without 1984. I've never seen it spelled out 1984, but every time I put 1984, I get a spike for the year 1984, and it crashes. I think it's plotting the year. It's the only explanation I can come to. It's not reliable data. It's a scoop here for the year 1984. That year is popular during that year, and then that year got less popular after it was over, I guess. But when you spell it out,
that's about. I've never seen it like that.
So that's...
So what are those numbers in the lower left-hand corner? Are those links and on your...
They're
no.
brackets. This is 1800 to 1907.
Oh, okay.
This is 1908 to 1984, 1985. These are you can theoretically click them, but I mean, when my data was coming out like this, I didn't see the point.
Yeah.
So,
is it searching the books that Google has in?
That's what it says. Yeah, it says search books. That's what it says right here. Search lots of books.
And
that's
does it search references within the books? I mean, I guess it would.
It could, supposedly. The book that we read, the text for today's class talked about tracing popularity of different words over time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But since this had such a problem with one text that I know, and I got different results, whether it was 1984, George Orwell 1984, or spelling it out with words 1984. And I would get Fahrenheit 451, I'd get a scale for it, but I throw in another book and suddenly that flatlines. They're not put in relation to each other like it's supposed to when you go to the main page.
That's puzzling.
This is what it's supposed to do with the three things. It's supposed to represent them like this. I never once got a representation of this, and I wasn't picking books, and with the one recent exception, which I dropped and then replaced it with Brave New World. I mean, that should have, those three books should have represent, like this should have happened, and it didn't. And I can't figure out why. So
2.5.
Yeah, we lost all sort of stars. We're down.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Questions for Brian? No, we preferred and we had a better experience.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, who's next? You want to go?
I enjoyed mine a lot.
Oh, good. That's some good news.
So I had Buoyant tools. Let's see. And Brian, I did figure out you can upload a file like a PDF.
Yes.
So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So let me go to my blog and then I'll switch back over to the So I think I would give this probably a 5-star rating. I really enjoyed it. It gave all kinds of useful information. So I really enjoyed playing with the tool Buoyant. The purpose of the tool is to analyze text and reveal unnoticed or hidden aspects about a website or text. You can put in a URL, you can put in a whole text. I tried it with the URL and a full short story by Kazuo Ishiguro, and it gave me lots of interesting things. On the home page underneath the name Buoyant appears the phrase see through your text, which further describes the function of this site. So I began by copying and pasting the URL from one of my DH projects, Re-envisioning Japan, into the search function of Buoyant. You can input one or more URLs or full text to see what is revealed. What Buoyant displays was it displays a word cloud, terms, links, summary of vocabulary density, average words per sentence, most frequent words in the corpus, context, bubble lines, correlations, trends, documents, terms, and termsberry.
So you just do one data dump and you get all of these different ways of looking at the data. Interesting.
And I can try to show you here in a minute if I can pull up that URL and just go through it. I don't know if you can see this very well, so maybe I should go back or go into Zotero and just do it for you and show you.
Yeah.
It might make it more interesting. So I'm going to copy and paste the URL for my project into there to show you what exactly it does. And go into, and Buoyant, you can also upload a PDF document of a full text. So I just, did this, clicked reveal, and it pulls up all of these. It shows you. Yeah, really quick, and it shows you the terms that appear the most. So obviously Japan, since this is re-envisioning Japan. Objects, they look at objects collected, collection, film, century. You can go to phrases, and it shows you the most frequent phrases throughout. So like, things like and the. But with the Ishiguro text, it pulled out a phrase that I thought was quite interesting, and I'll show you that in a minute. You've got trends for these words and where they appear in the document. You have bubble lines over here. It shows you more of the frequency of the trends of the words. And of course it goes throughout the text here. Termsberry kind of shows you all of that. Over here, you can click links, and it'll show you how the word is linked to other words.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Godzilla brochures.
Terms, shows you different terms and how many they appear. I wish it had a function for, like, you know, gender, like we were talking about with the Great Wave, and which characters and the genders of characters. I don't know if that's a function. I didn't see that. Let me go back to this. So I did that. Then I decided to copy and paste a short story, and I was like, oh, Kazuo Ishiguro, A Village After Dark. I knew you could get that online, and so I copied that. And it showed the frequent words and how many times they come up. Like said was the most frequent word, just, I'm, time, and young. The trends graph reveals that what section of the story the words appear the most. The links function, we went through that, what they're linked to. The phrases sections allow you to see how often a particular phrase appears throughout the text. An interesting thing here is that I noticed that I could see was the most reoccurring phrase, with it occurring 6 times in his short story of The Village After Dark. And overall, I could definitely see this tool being useful, you know, if you're trying to dig deeper, and like what we talked about with graphs, maps, and trees, and with some of those algorithms that reveal underlying or hidden things that you didn't know before. I think this fits right in with that. It's a great tool. Let me go back to the homepage real quick. And they have a tutorial workshop you can watch, but you can upload here or open a file on your computer and add it to there and just really dig into it, see what's all available.
That's worth playing.
Yeah, so I gave it 5 stars. I found it. I want to play with it more and put more text in there and see what comes up.
Think it'll make it into your final project somehow?
Probably. I think so. Because I could see uploading the text of the play in there, and see what kind of pop cultural things or what phrases related to Ireland and history come up. Identity and memory and all that.
You could also, one variation of what you do with your final project is, you know, for example, you want to deal with that play, find out what different things tools you can use to learn different things about that play.
Yeah, I think this would be a great one, I think, to use.
This would just fit too, yeah. Okay, who's next? Oh, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah. You knew this story, right?
Oh, yes.
So, I mean,
it's been a while since I've read it, though, but yeah.
I mean, the most frequent phrase, like, did it ring a bell? Were you like, oh, okay? Or was it all like, hey, I didn't know any of this?
Well, it was kind of this guy returning to this village after being away for a long time, and seeing familiar people, and kind of thinking about the past, and, you know, he's returning after dark, and so the term I can see, it's like I can see, you know, he's thinking about the future and how he's going to be remembered to, and all of that, and so it's like I can see who I am, maybe, or I can see in this cloudy memory and that sort of thing. So it's kind of interesting that that's the phrase that stood out the most.
Yeah.
But it's been a while since I've read it. I read it during that time when he won that Nobel Prize in Literature. It's like, read some Ishiguro stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So.
Okay, so whoever's next, go ahead and share your screen. I think it should be good. Jennifer, would you go? Do you mind?
Yes. I'm not going to use this for my project, but it was fun to look at. Actually, I got this idea a minute ago with Tamara's fake book. I thought, you know, Grendel's mom could have her own real Facebook page.
Huh.
But guess what? She already does. Yeah.
What?
Yes. So the reason I would not use it is because there's really nothing that I can physically map about what dragons influenced other dragons in literature. Because it's, I mean, you know, but this was fun to see if it helps anybody. There you go. So
what are these Bigfoot sightings?
Yes. And look how it's only like, well, there is one down here, I guess, in Australia. If that's Australia, is that Australia, y'all? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one. Actually, I only
He was
saw
on
the
vacation.
I
Yeah,
I saw them in Alaska and the UK and the US. I didn't really actually realize that there was anything anywhere else. But so these are super weird, and I do not feel like this site is horribly credible because
there are so few sites.
right. Also, the guy that's the mediator or whatever is like, I didn't want to put the person's real name that said they saw this because they, you know, whatever. It's kind of shady. Or, oh, here's, yeah, they're like, we don't really know what day it was that we saw it. It was just like one day, and it was like, really, we don't want to tell you like the name of the people that saw it or the day it happened, but it's super, yeah, super weird. And also, I don't know what a thunderbird is. So what's a thunderbird?
I don't know.
I think no, it's the blue ones are thunderbirds. So,
but you guys, how surprised are you that all of them are in the U.S.?
Zero, yeah. I know. So the blue ones,
the UFO saw a thunderbird struck in the mud. Second, a large bird in mud while out bird hunting.
I know.
I don't know. There's the UFO.
Yep. Which, hey, why aren't the UFOs in New Mexico? There is like nothing even there. We know that's where they mostly.
Ooh, look at all that going on in Texas.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's not Texas. What's that one?
So anyway, this was fun.
Okay, all right.
And it really urges you when you get on this site to make your own. It was like, you ready to make yours now? You know. So
I am. Did we see one here? Commerce, Texas, UFO and a Bigfoot both time. Okay, all right, that's very cool.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
so yeah, I'm not going to use it, but that's the fun I had with it.
What? How many stars?
Oh,
or
gosh.
I guess it depends on what we're rating. Entertainment, I'm 5.
Yeah, 5. Yeah. Credibility, -5.
Yeah, I want my Bigfoot sources to be more credible than that.
Absolutely. But that Bigfoot, I guess he has frequent flyer miles because he goes like continent to continent. You know. Anyway.
Oh, okay. All right, who's next? How about you, Tamara? Show us the fake book.
Yeah, I can do that. I can try to share my screen. So here's the fake book page when you first get in. And it looked really cool. And it's designed specifically for classrooms. And so the developers, they named it classtools.net. You can put the picture of whoever you want or the organization. You can add posts right down here so you can make it say something. You can even change, this was what I thought was cool, you can even change fake book and make it like the name of a company or an organization. And change the icon right here. But as soon as I tried to click on anything, of course it says pay.
Okay.
Let's see. Try to get in. So if I try to log in or start, it's loading. And of course now it's not going to do it. If I did premium login, not a member, join now. Why is my dictionary coming up? Go away, Siri. Ad-free, personal, how does it work? After signing up for your premium account, you can directly log in. How much does it cost? For 6 months, it's only £13, which isn't that much. But I wasn't willing to pay £13, which would be equivalent of $25 US, depending on the conversion rate. For a whole school, for 6 months, it's only £50, but I don't know how many students they expect for a whole school. £75 for 12 months, which doesn't seem quite right. But again, I don't know how many students they're expecting. When I did go to the gallery, I saw that someone's already created one for Cleopatra, Romeo Montague, Margaret Thatcher, which was fascinating. Let's see, George Washington. They have all kinds of different people. So
If
we'll
you
click
click
on.
them, do they have friends?
I'm looking. They do have friends. So on Cleopatra's friends list, they have Mark Antony, Octavian, Ptolemy, and you can do the same thing. You can add videos, you can add posts. What would they be doing at the time? Which I thought would be really wonderful. For the Jane Project, one of our things is we wanted to see what their social media would look like. And so I might break down and pay just so we can see what the social media would look like. But I'm not sure. I might be able to do this through a fake Twitter just the same way. But it's still pretty fantastic, I think, especially if you're wanting your students to connect with different characters in the text to see how they're really following along and pulling those inferencing skills, and are they making those connections with what the episodes at the time or the events of the time and with what other characters are experiencing. I can see that it would really be wonderful. Again, I don't know if it would be good for our project, but I think it.
A little bit. There's just scroll down a little bit if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
A little bit. Yeah. So I think I saw. Oh, keep going. Yeah, Mark Antony likes her saying "beautiful Alexandra."
Right.
There was some kind of like smackdown going on. You crossed the line, Mark Antony. It means war. You pig.
Yes.
I strongly dislike Herod. You are a pig.
Yes.
How could you betray me that way? That's fun.
So I can really see where this would be a great tool for students to demonstrate that they actually understand character relationships, or even if you are, social studies and you want students to understand current events or how it connects to the past, you can really pull that in. All for a lovely $12.99 for months.
One of the other things that I really liked in terms of like doing literary analysis is, and she was suggesting that you could, in the same ways that one of our books was mapping relationships. Cleopatra is friends with X, 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 and X is friends with X, and they're so. And then, so-and-so only has 3 friends.
Exactly.
But those friends are pretty powerful because they're all into these friends. So, yeah.
Exactly.
So it's not just embodying, which is fun, but I think also seeing that the narrative structure.
Right.
Okay, who's next? About you, Greg. You up?
Okay, so I had the social annotations. And I got frustrated with it. I overall I think it was really good, and if I could figure out how to do it, I'd give it 5 stars. I gave it 3 stars because I couldn't play with it more than just perusing through and looking at the examples and seeing how they did it. So I got frustrated and was trying to figure it out. So I thought, hey, it says, do you need help? I think I'll just ask these people, right? So I guess this is the University of Texas at Arlington's website here. And so I started asking them, hey, I need some help with this. Can you guide me through it? And and they started asking me questions like, what class are you in? And so and I thought, okay, I'm probably going to mess this up, and I don't want us not to be able to use this in the future. So I bolted on the question asking, and I said, hey, I got it figured out. But so it's pretty neat. So you see here social annotation, then it says hypothesis. Well, first of all, I figured out, what do I do here? I clicked here, and then it's I try to go to it, and I this first page here is neat. It says, see how it works, and it shows change the way that you collaborate, that you can use it for scholars and scientists, teachers and students, journalists and editors, publishers. And so I said, well, okay, this is cool, teachers and students. So let's click on that. And then it shows different ways that you can use it, and I thought, wow, this is neat. 10 ways to annotate with students, and then it goes through and it shows you different things that you can do with the student teacher annotations, and it gives you some examples and annotation as a gloss, and usually talks about that, so on and so forth. So so it gave you some really neat things to do in that regards. But when I tried to, you had to register for it, so I registered for it. So when I registered, it doesn't show much. It's install your Chrome extension, and it goes through here. And after I got all said and done, so I went and installed a Chrome extension. I don't know what the heck that did, but I installed it. And let others know, so it just kind of leaves you hanging. And I'm the kind of person that is not very technologically adept. So you do these things where you can see some examples, see how it works in action. So I said, okay, let me click on education, and it shows some more of that stuff. So I just went in circles for a while. I got to see some pretty neat things, but I can't remember how to get to it here, but it had some ideas where you can go and kind of learn about it. But the directions that it would give was just really this numerous instructions, like 1, do this, 2, do this, 3, do this, and like 20 steps later, So I got frustrated, and had I had hair, I would have pulled it out. But I am determined, though, that this is a really neat thing. I could see that once I do have patience and can sit down and mess with it, I can see myself using that with my administrators, because you can go through and you can highlight text and out on the side make obviously annotations about it. You can pull in PDF files, web stuff. It really is pretty neat. And then you can do the same thing with text. Like if you're reading, and people, as a group, people can go through and make comments on it, about little ideas that they had, or some things, some little points of interest that they gleaned from it. But I didn't get that far. I got far enough to know that this is a pretty neat thing, but the user friendliness is not a plus. So
Steve,
overall,
sounds like
it is. Overall, I gave it a 3. Had I could play with it a little bit more, and do it more on my own instead of looking at the examples, I think I would have. I can see easily how I could use it myself. So if it's something that you're interested in, don't give up. Just go back to it get out of the sandbox for a minute. Go take a shower and then get back in the sandbox and play with it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we got a couple left. Yeah. Bob and
I can make mine very quick because my trip to the sandbox was going to cost me $70. So
okay, never mind.
I had Tableau. Going through and looking at the demos was interesting, but when I came to the $70 part, I was like, pass. However, I do have something for the Jane project. This is from this week's New Yorker. Feel free to borrow.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Bob. That's great.
All right. Short, sweet, fabulous. How about you, Peter?
All right. Y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I kind of duplicating. I played with Facebook, and I was able to set up a profile, and I shared it with one of my classes, one of my senior AP classes on kind of a college day.
What'd they think of it?
Well, they thought that it was, because they are all moved past Facebook, so
yes.
They think it's for their parents and uncles, and they also thought that it looked like a couple of other social media sites that teachers had set up for them in middle school.
Oh, okay.
So they thought, it's kind of what we've seen before. So it wasn't innovative, and but I enjoyed being able. It's a similar setup with safer parameters than what they have if they're exposed to public use, and so that element of it is helpful. But I don't know that I would use it going forward because we already have so many ways we interact with them. Especially Remind. One of the comments that one of the kids had was that they put their phones on Do Not Disturb so that they don't get the notifications that we're sending, and so you end up wasting time reminding people about quizzes and tests because they are they don't get the notifications anymore. So it's kind of like drowning in stimuli.
Yeah, very good point. So more of that. All right, how many stars do you think?
Well, I went in thinking 5, but after, with that test market, maybe 2 or 3.
Okay, well, they're the ones, so.
Right.
All right, thank you so much, Peter. So how about Abigail?
So mine was Wikipedia, and I decided to go back and kind of update it because I found one of the classroom things that I talked about in my post, but I went individually and gave everything different stars. So, I've used Wikipedia before. I used it even though I wasn't supposed to throughout high school, just for a springboard. And it was very easy to use. I gave it 5 stars, especially when you switch to the visual editing, which I pulled up. I tried Edgar Allan Poe because that's what my presentation is about, but his is a protected Wikipedia. So I ended up finding his nephew, I think, who is named the exact same thing after his uncle, or sorry, his second cousin. So that was something new for me, which I thought was pretty cool. But you can edit, and it comes up like this, and this is what I'm used to seeing, and I'm just like, okay, no, thank you. And let me see. It usually asks me how to switch. I gotta find it. Okay, so it comes up like the exact page. And so it's very easy to do for somebody like me who has no idea what they're doing with computers. So you can just get in there and kind of go, tap on it and put information in there, which I thought was amazing, especially for, I guess not for kids today, but people my age and older, because kids today know how to code now. And what I thought was interesting was the possibilities for it. And when I was writing this post, I remembered that I had substituted for an English class in a high school where the teacher created a Wikipedia site for the class like this. And so the teacher had it, and they have the instructor and everything, and everybody gets a passcode, and they join it, and everybody makes their own page, and you have your own timelines. And you have, it's like D2L, but you can make the articles. Okay. And these are all made by students. And I think that's something that's really great, especially now since we're trying to put technology in the classroom more and more. But I also think that it's very hard to do if you're going to do something like that for high school or middle school or something. I think in college it's great, but if you're working with younger kids, it's going to be hard to get them to stay on task. So I gave that one 3 stars. And the frustration goes with the possibilities. Overall assessment, I gave it 4 out of 5 just because there's an age restriction in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. The research I still hold on to is that Wikipedia is no less inaccurate than Encyclopedia Britannica, more so because experts go in there and they edit it. And so crowdsourced stuff, there are not too many idiots who are going in there and, well, I guess there are, and then it gets swept in and people fix it. The ones that are interesting, I think, must be the celebrity ones because those are getting, goosed. But I still love that story about IMDb. Anybody not get a chance to share? Okay, so what I did was miscalculate time again. I got carried away.
So let's table the rhetorical précis. I think it's been a long day. Do you mind if we close out 10 minutes early? No. Well, okay, so let me know if you have questions between now and next week, and I look forward to seeing you guys' projects. If you, well, yeah, just let me know. And again, leave yourself some wiggle room. Give us enough so that we know what you're doing so we can help, but also don't solidify everything so fully that you can't comfortably make revisions, because we want to give you feedback that you can actually use, and that you would revise it then after that. For me, I would give you more feedback and you revise it for the final project, and then you have a beautiful thing to go away with. All right. Yes, just sharing the midterms next week. Yes. Anything else? No, that's it. I think that's it. Thank you guys so much.